Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that the very words coming out of your mouth right now are either building your fortune or destroying it? And most people have no idea they're casting spells of poverty every single day. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Here's something that might shock you. While you've been grinding, hustling, and working yourself to exhaustion, trying to create wealth, there's been an invisible force working against you the entire time. It's not the economy. It's not your background. And it's not even your lack of opportunities. It's something far more subtle, yet infinitely more powerful. It's the language you speak about money every single day. Has this ever happened to you? You work incredibly hard. You follow all the success advice. You push yourself beyond limits. Yet somehow, the breakthrough never comes. The money doesn't flow. The doors don't open. The clients don't call. You find yourself saying things like, "I'm always struggling financially." "Money is so tight right now." Or, "I just can't seem to get ahead." These phrases feel innocent enough, almost like you're just being honest about your situation. But what you're about to discover might surprise you. These seemingly harmless words are actually operating as spiritual commands that the universe obeys with frightening precision. Florence Scovel Shinn, one of the most profound teachers of metaphysical principles, discovered something revolutionary about the relationship between speech and wealth creation. She found that most people unknowingly rehearse their limitations, constantly describing what hasn't arrived instead of commanding what must come. Every time you explain why the money hasn't shown up, why the opportunity passed you by, or why success seems so elusive, you're not just venting, you're programming delay directly into your reality. Think about it for a moment. How many times this week have you caught yourself speaking about what you lack rather than what you're calling forth? How often do your conversations revolve around financial struggle, missed opportunities, or economic uncertainty? What you might not realize is that each of these seemingly innocent complaints becomes a spiritual decree, and the universe is listening to every single word. The truth is, your breakthrough has been delayed, not by your actions, but by your speaking. While you've been focused on doing more, working harder, and finding better strategies, the real culprit has been hiding in plain sight. In the casual words you speak without thinking, in the idle complaints you voice about money, in the doubtful language that flows from your mouth like water from a broken dam. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share with you will fundamentally change how you understand the relationship between your words and your wealth. You're about to discover why billionaires speak differently, why certain phrases literally paralyze the channels through which money would normally flow to you. And most importantly, how to transform your financial reality by transforming the words that leave your lips. But first, we need to understand exactly how your current speech patterns have been working against you and why every casual conversation about lack has been. If you're someone who recognizes that true prosperity starts from the inside out, and you want to continue exploring how spiritual principles create real-world wealth, make sure to subscribe. This channel is dedicated to people who understand that transformation happens through alignment, not just action. and every video is designed to deepen your mastery of these invisible laws that govern visible results, creating an invisible wall between you and the very abundance you're desperately seeking. This is where most people get trapped in a cycle they don't even recognize. The fear cycle that masquerades as realistic thinking. Here's what happens behind the scenes of your financial reality. Every time you speak from a place of fear, you're essentially sending out energetic signals that tell the universe to keep abundance at a distance. When you say things like, "What if I can't pay the bills this month?" or "I'm scared I'll never have enough money," you're not just expressing worry. You're actually creating energetic barriers that block the natural flow of prosperity that wants to reach you. Think of it like this. Imagine divine supply as a river that's constantly flowing toward you, carrying opportunities, ideas, connections, and resources. Fear is like building a dam across that river. The water keeps flowing, but it can't reach you because you've unknowingly constructed obstacles with your own words. The most frustrating part, you could be working 18-hour days, following every success strategy, deserving every good thing. But if that dam of fearful speech remains in place, the supply simply cannot get through. But there's another word that's even more dangerous than fearful language. And it's so common that most people use it dozens of times a day without realizing the hidden devastation it's causing. That word is trying. Every time you say, "I'm trying to make money," "I'm trying to get ahead," or "I'm trying to build my business," you're actually making a declaration that success is uncertain, difficult, and maybe even impossible. The universe, how you approach your financial journey, operates on a completely different frequency than human effort. It responds to knowing, not attempting. When someone with true wealth consciousness wants something, they don't say they're trying to get it. They speak as if it's already in motion, already decided, already done. The word trying carries within it the seeds of doubt, uncertainty, and struggle. And the moment those seeds leave your mouth, they begin growing in your reality. This transformation in understanding changes everything about how you approach your financial journey. Most people think they need to try harder, work more hours, or find better strategies. But the real breakthrough happens when you stop trying and start declaring. Instead of "I'm trying to increase my income," you shift to "my income is increasing." Instead of "I'm trying to find new opportunities," you declare "opportunities are finding me now." I want to go even deeper into this revelation because what I'm about to share will expose the most powerful financial principle that billionaires use instinctively, often without even realizing they're doing it. This principle has nothing to do with investment strategies or business tactics, and everything to do with the hidden authority that lives within your voice when you discover how to access it. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to change my words." If you're starting to see how your language has been shaping your reality, this hidden authority I'm talking about reveals itself in something most people never pay attention to: the fundamental difference between how a king speaks and how a beggar speaks. When you listen carefully to someone's language patterns, you can instantly identify their spiritual identity, and more importantly, you can predict their financial future with startling accuracy. A king doesn't ask for permission to rule, he issues decrees. A beggar pleads for scraps and whispers requests, hoping someone will take pity. The aisle, Fascinating how reality was constructed. Revelation here is that the universe operates like a cosmic court system, and it only responds to voices that carry authority. When you speak like someone who commands substance, substance obeys. When you speak like someone who complains about shortage, shortage becomes your loyal servant. Most people have been unknowingly trained to speak like financial beggars their entire lives. They say things like, "I hope I can afford that someday. Maybe if I'm lucky, things will work out." Or, "I wish I had more money." These are the whispered pleas of someone who sees themselves as separate from abundance. Someone who believes they must convince the universe to throw them a few crumbs. But there's a deeper transformation available when you understand something profound about how reality itself was constructed. According to the most ancient wisdom, everything that exists in the physical world first had to be spoken into existence. This isn't mystical theory. It's the fundamental blueprint of creation itself. The biblical principle states clearly, "In the beginning was the Word." Not in the beginning was the effort. Not in the beginning was the struggle. Not in the beginning was the hoping and wishing. It was the Word that preceded all form. This revelation changes everything about how you approach your financial breakthrough. Every single thing you see around you, your house, your car, the device you're watching this on, all of it started as an idea that someone spoke into reality. Before the architect could build, they had to declare their vision. Before the entrepreneur could create their business, they had to voice their concept. Before abundance can appear in your bank account, you have to give it voice through your declarations. The hidden truth behind every financial transformation is this: nothing manifests until it is first spoken with the authority of someone who knows it belongs to them. When you shift from beggar consciousness to royal consciousness, your entire relationship with money changes. You stop asking the universe for favors and start commanding your inheritance. You stop explaining why you don't have enough and start declaring what is already yours by divine right. This shift in speech patterns creates what I call a vibrational signature that the universe recognizes and responds to immediately. When you speak like someone who already has wealth, opportunities begin appearing. When you speak like someone who governs their financial reality rather than being governed by it, money. The mechanism behind this transformation starts flowing in ways that seem almost magical, but are actually following precise spiritual laws. Now, let me share with you the exact mechanism behind why this works so powerfully. Because understanding the science behind this transformation will give you the confidence to completely revolutionize how you speak about money, and more importantly, how money responds to your voice. Drop a comment saying, "I choose authority," if you're ready to step into this new way of speaking about your financial future. The mechanism behind this transformation lies in understanding a sequence that most people get completely backwards. The majority of individuals try to change their external circumstances first. They work harder, hustle longer, chase more opportunities, hoping that eventually their financial situation will improve and then their mindset will follow. But this approach is like trying to change the harvest while ignoring the seeds you've planted. It's exhausting, frustrating, and ultimately ineffective. The revelation that changes everything is this: you must rearrange your decree before you can rearrange your conditions. Your words are the seeds that determine what grows in the garden of your life. If you want different fruit, you don't try to change the tree. You plant different seeds. Every single word that comes out of your mouth is either planting abundance or planting lack in the invisible soil of your future reality. Here's what happens behind the scenes of your financial transformation. When you consistently speak words of limitation, you're literally sowing weeds in your field of possibilities. These weeds grow strong and choke out any opportunities that try to sprout. But when you shift to speaking powerful declarations of abundance, you're planting premium seeds that will eventually produce a harvest beyond anything you could have, created through effort alone. If what we've explored together today has shifted something in your understanding of how your tongue operates as a constant sewer wealth actually works, a quick like lets me know this resonated and helps these principles reach others who are ready to hear them. There's something powerful about supporting content that supports your own growth. Your tongue operates as a constant sewer, whether you realize it or not. Every casual conversation, every offhand comment about money, every frustrated sigh about your financial situation is dropping seeds into the fertile ground of creation. The universe doesn't distinguish between your serious declarations and your casual complaints. It treats every word as a planting instruction and begins growing exactly what you've spoken. This understanding completely transforms your relationship with your own voice. Instead of using words carelessly, you begin to recognize that every sentence is an investment in your future. In reality, when you catch yourself about to say, "I can't afford that," you realize you're about to plant a seed of limitation. When you consciously choose to say, "Money flows to me easily," you're planting a seed of abundance that will grow and multiply over time. The most successful people intuitively understand this principle, even if they've never studied these spiritual laws. They speak differently about money, opportunities, and their future. They don't waste time describing their current limitations because they're too busy declaring their expanding possibilities. Their language patterns reveal someone who is constantly sowing seeds of increase rather than weeds of defeat. What makes this even more powerful is that the soil of creation is incredibly fertile and responsive. Unlike physical gardens that take months to show results, the spiritual realm begins responding to your new seed patterns almost immediately. When you change what you're planting through your words, you begin seeing shifts in your circumstances much faster than you might expect. But here's where most people sabotage their own transformation. And it's something I want to dive deeply into because recognizing this pattern will accelerate your breakthrough exponentially. Comment below with new seeds if you're starting to see how your words have been planting your current financial reality. The pattern that sabotages most people's transformation is their inability to recognize that their words aren't just expressions. They're literally life and death decisions for their opportunities, relationships, and financial flow. There's an ancient principle that states, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." And this isn't poetic language. It's a precise description of how reality operates at the deepest level. Every single word you speak is either breathing life into your possibilities or suffocating them before they can fully form. When you say, "I never have any luck with money," you're not just describing your experience. You're actively killing future opportunities that were trying to reach you. When you declare, Money comes to your speech is never neutral me easily. You're breathing life into pathways that will begin opening immediately, even if you can't see them yet. Your speech is never neutral. It's impossible to speak without impact. Every conversation is either building the bridge to your breakthrough or destroying the foundation of your success. Most people think they're just venting or being realistic when they complain about their finances, but they're actually performing surgery on their own opportunities without anesthesia, cutting away possibilities that could have transformed their entire trajectory. Here's where the transformation becomes truly fascinating. Billionaires operate from a completely different decision-making framework when it comes to worthiness. They don't wait to be chosen, validated, or approved by others before they claim their place at the table. They speak their worthiness into existence through their declarations, and then the world rearranges itself to match their conviction. Watch how wealthy people talk about opportunities. They don't ask, "Do you think this will work?" or "What if I'm not qualified?" Instead, they speak to situations with authority. They don't ask if doors will open. They address the doors directly and command them to respond. This isn't arrogance, it's spiritual alignment with a higher law that recognizes authority and responds to it instantly. The hidden truth behind this phenomenon is that the abundance begins seeking you out. Universe operates like a vast recognition system. It's constantly scanning for voices that carry the frequency of true authority. And when it finds them, it mobilizes resources, people, and circumstances to support whatever those voices are declaring. When you speak like someone who knows they belong in abundance, abundance begins seeking you out. Most people have been conditioned to wait for external validation before they claim their worth. They think they need permission, credentials, or approval before they can speak with financial authority. But this backward thinking keeps them trapped in a cycle of seeking rather than commanding, asking rather than declaring, hoping rather than knowing. The breakthrough happens when you realize that your worthiness isn't something you earn, it's something you declare. Your value isn't determined by your current bank balance, but by the authority with which you claim your divine inheritance. When you shift from seeking approval to speaking with conviction, everything changes. Now, let your worthiness isn't something you earn me reveal the most powerful declaration that wealthy people use instinctively, often without realizing the spiritual mechanics behind why it works so effectively. Type, "I declare my worthiness" in the comments if you're ready to step into this level of financial authority. This powerful declaration that transforms everything operates on a principle that completely reverses how most people approach their financial reality. Instead of speaking from where you are, you learn to speak from where you're going. Instead of describing your current bank balance, you declare from the abundance that already exists for you in the spiritual realm. Here's the hidden truth that changes everything spiritually. Your treasure already exists. The abundance you're seeking isn't something you need to create from scratch. It's something you need to claim and call forth from the invisible into the visible. Your job isn't to manufacture wealth. It's to speak from the reality where your prosperity is already established and waiting for your recognition. This requires a fundamental shift in how you use your voice. When wealthy people talk about money, they don't speak as people who are trying to get rich. They speak the two types of speech patterns as people who are already rich and are simply managing their abundance. They don't say, "I hope I can afford that house someday." They say, "I'm looking at houses in that area." They don't say, "Maybe I'll start that business if I can raise the money." They say, "I'm putting together the funding for my new venture." The transformation in your financial journey happens when you understand that there are only two types of speech patterns in the world when it comes to money: the language of begging and the language of decreeing. A poor man begs. He asks, hopes, wishes, and pleads with circumstances to change. He speaks from desperation, uncertainty, and need. Every sentence carries the vibration of someone who sees themselves as separate from abundance, someone who must convince the universe to throw them a bone. But a king decrees, he commands, expects, and announces what will be. His speech carries the frequency of authority, certainty, and ownership. He doesn't ask if wealth will come. He declares when and how it will manifest. This isn't about arrogance or pretending. It's about aligning your speech with the spiritual reality where your abundance already exists. Your speech patterns are constantly revealing and reinforcing your financial identity. Your speech patterns are constantly revealing. Every time you speak, you're either strengthening your connection to wealth consciousness or deepening your identification with lack. The universe responds to the identity you claim through your words, not the identity you think you have in your mind. When you catch yourself speaking like someone who doesn't have enough, you're actually reinforcing poverty consciousness and instructing the universe to maintain that experience. But when you consciously choose to speak like someone who governs their financial reality, you're activating wealth consciousness and commanding abundance to manifest. The most fascinating part of this transformation is how quickly the external world begins responding to your new speech patterns. People start treating you differently. Opportunities begin appearing, and money starts flowing in ways that seem almost magical, but are actually following precise spiritual laws. Now I want to share with you the exact process that allows you to make this shift permanently, because knowing a practical system for rewiring your speech patterns, the theory isn't enough. You need a practical system for rewiring your speech patterns at the deepest level. Comment, "I speak from abundance." If you're ready to start speaking from your spiritual reality rather than your current circumstances, this practical system for rewiring your speech patterns begins with a revelation that might initially feel overwhelming, but ultimately becomes the key to your complete financial transformation. Every single word you've ever spoken about money, opportunities, or your worthiness has been recorded by universal law. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but literally recorded and filed in the cosmic archives of creation. Your current financial reality isn't random, isn't punishment, and isn't due to external circumstances beyond your control. It's the precise mathematical result of your past declarations. Every complaint about money you've uttered, every doubtful statement about your abilities, every fearful projection about your future, all of these have been carefully tabulated and manifested into your present experience. But here's where this understanding becomes your liberation rather than your limitation. If your past words created your current reality, then your present words are creating your future reality. This means you have complete power to rewrite your financial story, starting with the very next sentence that leaves your mouth. The cosmic recording system that seemed like a burden becomes your greatest tool for transformation. I create content specifically for those who are ready to go beyond surface-level success strategies and dive into the profound principles that actually create lasting abundance. If that's you, subscribe to join a community of people who understand that your words, thoughts, and spiritual alignment are the real keys to financial transformation. The shift happens when you stop seeing yourself as someone who needs money and start positioning yourself as someone who stewards abundance. This isn't about pretending or positive thinking. It's about recognizing your true spiritual identity and speaking from that place of authority. A steward doesn't beg for resources. A steward manages them. A steward doesn't worry about supply. A steward directs its flow. When you make this identity shift, everything about your language patterns changes automatically. Instead of saying, "I don't have enough money," you start saying, "I'm a master key to unlock dormant wealth channels. I'm reallocating my resources." Instead of, "I can't afford that," you say, "I'm choosing not to invest in that right now." The difference isn't just semantic, it's energetic. And the universe responds to energy with mathematical precision. This transformation in how you see yourself fundamentally alters what you attract and create. When you speak as a steward of supply, you're sending signals that you're ready to handle more abundance. The universe begins testing your readiness by sending opportunities that match your new vibrational signature. Money starts showing up because you're now speaking the language that money recognizes and responds to. The hidden truth behind this process is that abundance is always looking for qualified stewards. Divine supply needs people who can speak with authority, manage with wisdom, and distribute with purpose. When your speech patterns demonstrate that you're no longer operating from scarcity consciousness, but from stewardship consciousness, resources begin flowing toward you like iron filings to a magnet. What makes this even more powerful is understanding the specific mechanics of how this stewardship language activates dormant wealth channels. And there's one particular phrase that acts like a master key to unlock these pathways. Write, "I am a steward," in the comments if you're ready to step into this new identity and speak from abundance rather than lack. This master key phrase that unlocks dormant wealth channels operates on a principle that most people never discover because they're looking in all the wrong places for their financial breakthrough. They're studying market trends, economic forecasts, and investment strategies, not realizing that their true inheritance has nothing to do with external economic conditions and everything to do with spiritual authority. Your real wealth doesn't come from the economy, from your job, or from what's happening in the financial markets. Your inheritance is spiritual, not economic. When you truly grasp this, your inheritance is spiritual, not economic revelation. You stop being a victim to economic fluctuations and start commanding from a higher authority that transcends all material circumstances. You stop checking the news to see if it's a good day to prosper and start declaring that every day is designed for your increase. This shift in understanding transforms your entire relationship with money because you realize you're not dependent on external systems for your supply. While others are worried about recessions, layoffs, or market crashes, you're operating from a source that never experiences shortage, never goes bankrupt, and never runs out of creative ways to bless those who align with its principles. But here's where this becomes practical rather than philosophical. When you speak from this spiritual authority, your words literally rearrange reality. This isn't wishful thinking or positive affirmations. This is certainty-based declaring that restructures the physical world to match your spiritual conviction. I've witnessed words deliver houses to people who had no down payment, relationships to those who thought they'd never find love, business opportunities to individuals who were completely broke, and healings that defied every medical prognosis. The mechanics behind this phenomenon work through what I call reality restructuring. When you speak with absolute certainty from your spiritual inheritance, you're not just expressing hope, you're issuing commands to the invisible, forces that govern how circumstances arrange themselves. Your words become like magnets that attract corresponding experiences, or like architectural blueprints that the universe uses to rebuild your life structure. The transformation happens because you stop asking reality to change and start instructing it to align with your declarations. Instead of saying, "I hope my financial situation improves," you declare, "My financial situation is improving now." Instead of, "Maybe I'll find a way to make more money," you command, "Money is finding new ways to reach me." The difference in your words become magnets. Energy is profound, and the universe responds to energy with mathematical precision. What most people don't realize is that they've been using the same power their entire lives, but in reverse. They've been unconsciously restructuring their reality through worried declarations, fearful predictions, and doubtful statements. Now, you get to consciously redirect this creative force toward the abundance that's been waiting for your invitation. But there's a specific sequence to this process that makes the difference between occasional results and consistent transformation. And understanding this sequence will accelerate your breakthrough exponentially. Type reality responds to my words if you're beginning to see how your declarations have been shaping your experience all along. This specific sequence that transforms occasional results into consistent breakthroughs begins with recognizing the hidden weakness in one of the most common words people use when talking about their financial future. That word is hope, and while it seems positive on the surface, it actually carries a vibrational frequency that sabotages your manifestation before it can gain momentum. Hope contains uncertainty and pleading energy. When you say, when you cast aside hope, get money, you're actually declaring that wealth is uncertain, unlikely, and dependent on forces beyond your control. You're positioning yourself as someone who must wait for external circumstances to align favorably, rather than someone who commands those circumstances to respond to their decree. The transformation happens when you cast aside hope that begs and take up the speech that builds. Instead of, "I hope my business succeeds," you declare, "My business is succeeding now." Instead of, "I hope money comes to me," you command, "Money flows to me." Now, this isn't just a word change. It's an energetic shift from passive waiting to active creating, from uncertain wishing to certain knowing. But there is an even deeper level to this transformation that most people miss, and it has everything to do with the temperature of your words. You can say all the right declarations, use all the correct phrases, but if your words lack heat, they remain powerless. Facts describe the temporary circumstances around you, but fire creates the permanent transformation you're seeking. When you speak with passionate conviction about what must be, rather than merely stating current, when you speak with passionate conviction circumstances, you're igniting the creative force that restructures reality. Your words need the heat of absolute certainty behind them. They need the fire of unshakable knowing. They need the intensity that comes from someone who isn't making requests, but issuing commands. Most people speak their desires with all the passion of reading a grocery list. They say, "Money comes to me with the same energy they'd use to comment on the weather." But wealthy people speak their declarations with fire. Their words carry heat, conviction, and an authority that makes the universe sit up and pay attention. This difference in intensity is what separates those who get occasional results from those who experience consistent transformation. When you speak with fire, you're not just expressing a preference, you're issuing a non-negotiable demand to reality. You're commanding circumstances to align with your vision with the same authority that light commands darkness to. Retreat. The journey from cold facts to hot declarations requires you to tap into something deeper than intellectual understanding. It requires accessing the furnace of conviction that exists within your spiritual core, where doubt cannot survive, and uncertainty burns away in the heat of absolute knowing. Now let me share with you the exact method for igniting this fire in your words, because understanding this technique will give you the power to transform any declaration from wishful thinking into your words. Need the heat unstoppable. Creative force. Leave a comment saying, "My words have fire." If you're ready to speak with the intensity that creates permanent change, this exact method for igniting fire in your words begins with a fundamental shift in how you see the purpose of your voice. Most people use their tongue for explanation, explaining why they don't have money, explaining why opportunities haven't come, explaining why their circumstances are difficult. But your tongue wasn't designed for explanation. It was designed for execution. It's not a tool for describing problems, but for commanding solutions into visible form. The transformation happens when you stop waiting for others to recognize your value and start speaking it into manifestation yourself. Instead of hoping someone will notice your worth, you declare it with such conviction that reality has no choice but to reflect it back to you. Rather than explaining your credentials, you command your worth into visibility through consistent declaration that carries the heat of absolute knowing. This shift reveals something profound about your true nature that most people never discover because they're operating from such a limited perspective about what they're actually capable of creating. You weren't born to chase coins, count pennies, or worry about bills. Your divine nature is to summon entire kingdoms of abundance, to call forth realms of prosperity that extend far beyond your immediate needs. When you understand this, everything about your financial journey changes. You stop thinking about small money problems and start speaking large wealth solutions. You stop operating from scarcity consciousness that focuses on lack and start commanding from kingdom consciousness that recognizes unlimited supply. This isn't about being unrealistic. It's about being aligned with your true spiritual capacity. Your like is more than just engagement. It's a way of saying this wisdom matters and ensuring that others who need to understand the connection between speech and abundance can find this message. If this has been valuable to your journey, that small gesture makes a big difference. The hidden truth behind this transformation is that your thinking has been artificially limited by conditioning that taught you to think small, speak small, and expect small results. But you're meant to think, and the hidden truth behind this transformation speak on a kingdom level where abundance isn't a struggle, but a natural state, where wealth isn't something you chase, but something you govern. This kingdom mentality completely transforms your language patterns. Instead of saying, "I need to find some money," you declare, "I'm activating multiple income streams." Instead of, "I hope I can pay my bills," you command, "My financial obligations are easily covered by my expanding resources." The difference isn't just in the words, it's in the magnitude of what you're calling forth. The journey from koan-chasing consciousness to kingdom-summoning authority requires you to expand your vision of what's possible and then speak from that expanded reality. When you consistently declare kingdom-level abundance, the universe begins orchestrating kingdom-level resources to match your declarations. But there's a specific pattern that accelerates this transformation exponentially, and it involves understanding the exact relationship between the size of your declarations and the speed of your manifestation. Comment with "I summon kingdoms" if you're ready to expand beyond small thinking and start speaking from your true capacity. This specific pattern that accelerates manifestation involves understanding a counterintuitive relationship. The larger your declarations, the faster they tend to manifest. Most people think small declarations are safer and more likely to succeed. But the opposite is actually true. When you speak kingdom-level abundance, you're accessing creative forces that operate with much greater power and efficiency than the limited mechanisms that respond to small thinking. The transformation happens when you replace every complaint of lack with a declaration of abundance. Instead of echoing cries of need throughout your day, you begin singing proclamations of plenty. Your voice becomes a constant affirmation of divine sufficiency in your life. And this shift in your personal soundtrack creates a completely different vibrational environment around you. Think about the difference between someone who constantly hums songs of struggle and someone who consistently sings melodies of abundance. The person singing lack attracts more reasons to sing that same sad song, while the person singing sufficiency creates a magnetic field that draws resources, opportunities, and solutions into their orbit. Your voice literally becomes the tuning fork that determines what frequency of experience you attract. But here's where this becomes almost magical in its power. When you speak like a billionaire with consistent authority and conviction, natural forces begin to align with your words. The universe operates like wind. It follows the direction of authoritative speech. When you command with certainty, elements of "when you speak like a billionaire" reality begin shifting to match your declarations, often in ways that seem impossible until they happen. I've witnessed this phenomenon repeatedly. People start speaking differently about their finances, and within days, unexpected checks arrive, forgotten investments mature, or business opportunities appear out of nowhere. It's not coincidence. It's the universe responding to the change in their vibrational signature. When you shift from singing songs of lack to singing songs of plenty, everything around you starts harmonizing with your new melody. The hidden truth behind this transformation is that reality is far more responsive to authoritative speech than most people realize. The physical world is constantly listening for voices that carry true conviction. And when it finds them, it begins rearranging circumstances to match those declarations. Your words become like a conductor's baton, directing the symphony of your experience. What makes this even more powerful is understanding that this isn't just about changing your words. It's about changing your entire relationship with the creative force of the universe. You stop being someone who reacts to circumstances and become someone who conducts them through the authority of your speech. Now, let me share with you the most profound example of how this works. Because witnessing this principle in action will give you the confidence to completely transform your own declaration patterns. Write "I sing abundance" in the comments if you're ready to change your personal soundtrack from lack to plenty. This profound example of reality responding to authoritative speech is built on the most foundational law of creation itself. Nothing manifests until it is first spoken into being. This isn't metaphysical theory. It's the law of creation blueprint that governs how everything comes into existence. Your wealth, success, opportunities, and breakthroughs cannot appear in your physical reality until you first give them voice through purposeful declaration. Every single thing you see around you started as spoken intention. The building you're in was first spoken by an architect. The device you're using was first declared by an inventor. The business empires that dominate our world were first voiced by entrepreneurs who dared to speak their visions into existence. Nothing bypasses this law. Everything must be spoken before it can be seen. This revelation transforms your entire approach to creating financial abundance because you realize that your declarations aren't just expressions of hope. They're the actual mechanism through which your wealth comes into being. When you consistently declare abundance, you're literally speaking your prosperity into existence. When you consistently complain about lack, you're speaking scarcity into permanent residence in your life. Here's where this becomes incredibly practical. Your declarations operate exactly like deposits in a cosmic bank account. What you consistently declare becomes what you consistently receive. Every time you speak abundance, you're making a deposit of prosperity in the bank of reality. Every time you speak lack, you're making a deposit of scarcity. The universe keeps perfect records of every deposit you make through your words, and it pays out accordingly. Most people unknowingly make thousands of deposits of limitation every month through casual complaints, worried statements, and fearful projections about money. They deposit lack through phrases like, "I'm so broke," "I can never get ahead," or "money just doesn't come to me." Then they wonder why their account balance in reality reflects exactly what they've been depositing through their speech. But when you understand that your words are literally making deposits, everything changes. You become. The transformation happens incredibly conscious of what you're saying, because you realize that every statement is either building your wealth or draining it. You start treating your declarations like financial transactions because that's exactly what they are. The transformation happens when you begin making consistent deposits of abundance through purposeful declarations. Instead of casual complaints, you make intentional deposits of prosperity. Instead of worried statements, you make confident deposits of increase. Your speech becomes your most powerful wealth-building tool. Now, let me reveal the specific mechanism that amplifies these deposits exponentially, because understanding this will allow you to accelerate your manifestation in ways that seem almost supernatural. Type "I make abundance deposits" if you're ready to start treating your words like the powerful financial instruments they actually are. This specific mechanism that amplifies your abundance deposits exponentially works through recognizing a startling truth. Most people have been unknowingly practicing magic their entire lives, but they've been casting spells of poverty instead of prosperity. Every time you casually say, "I'm always struggling," or "money never lasts," you're not just expressing frustration. You're performing unconscious incantations that create those exact the revelation that changes everything realities in your experience. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that there's no difference between what ancient cultures called spell casting and what you're doing every day through your casual speech patterns. When you repeatedly declare, "I can never get ahead," you're weaving that limitation into the fabric of your reality with the same precision that any magician would use to manifest their intention. The only difference is that you're doing it unconsciously and creating outcomes you don't actually want. This unconscious magic has been running in the background of your life for years, creating financial patterns that seem impossible to break because you haven't recognized that you're the one continuously casting them into existence. Every casual complaint becomes a reinforcement spell that strengthens the very circumstances you're complaining about. Every worried statement about money becomes an incantation that summons more reasons to worry. But here's where this understanding becomes your ultimate liberation. If you've been unconsciously casting spells of limitation, you can. The transformation accelerates consciously choose to cast spells of abundance instead. The same mechanism that's been working against you can be redirected to work powerfully in your favor. You simply need to recognize that every word you speak is magical in its impact, and choose your incantations accordingly. The transformation accelerates when you understand that universal law doesn't take breaks, doesn't make exceptions, and doesn't distinguish between your serious declarations and your casual complaints. It's constantly recording and responding to every word you speak with mathematical precision. When you say, "I am rich," divine mechanisms immediately begin forming channels to make that statement true in your reality. This constant listening never stops. The universe isn't waiting for you to be in a special mood or speak with perfect conviction before it starts responding. It's recording your words 24 hours a day and orchestrating circumstances to match whatever you're consistently declaring. This means that casual conversations are just as powerful as formal affirmations. They're all being treated as spiritual commands. The profound shift happens when you realize that you're always practicing magic through your speech. And the only question is whether you're casting spells that serve you or sabotage you. Once you understand this, every conversation becomes an opportunity to consciously direct the magical power of your words toward the abundance you desire. Now, let me share with you the most powerful incantation, the profound shift for wealth that automatically overrides years of poverty spells, because understanding this specific formula will give you the ability to reverse decades of unconscious limitation programming. Comment: I choose conscious magic. If you're ready to take responsibility for the spells you've been casting and redirect this power toward abundance. This most powerful incantation for wealth operates on a complete reversal of how most people think about their relationship with money. The breakthrough happens when you realize that you're not waiting on money to show up. Money is actually waiting on your authoritative command. The delay in your financial transformation isn't happening because divine supply is slow or insufficient. The delay is happening because divine decree hasn't been spoken with the authority necessary to set abundance in motion. This understanding completely transforms your sense of power in your financial situation. Instead of feeling like a victim waiting for circumstances to change, you recognize that you're the one with the authority to command those circumstances into alignment. Money isn't hiding from you or avoiding you. It's standing at attention, waiting for you to speak the word that will release it into motion toward your life. The moment you shift from waiting on money to commanding money, everything changes. You stop checking your bank balance to see if it's okay to feel abundant, and you start declaring abundance to instruct your bank balance to increase. You stop asking money to come and start ordering it to flow. This isn't arrogance. It's alignment with your true spiritual authority over matter. But here's where this becomes truly revolutionary. When you declare, I am rich, while your wallet is thin, you're not lying, pretending, or living in denial. You're invoking higher law to overturn lower. When you declare, I am rich evidence, you're speaking truth to override temporary facts. And there's a profound difference between these two levels of reality. Facts are temporary circumstances that describe what appears to be happening in your physical environment right now. Truth is eternal principle that describes what's already established in the spiritual realm about your abundance. Facts are subject to change, but truth is immutable. When you speak from truth rather than fact, you're accessing a level of creative power that can restructure physical circumstances to match spiritual reality. This is why wealthy people can declare abundance even when their current numbers don't reflect it yet. They understand that they're not describing their current bank balance. They're invoking the eternal principle of their worthiness to receive divine supply. They're speaking from the end result rather than from temporary appearance. And the universe responds to truth more powerfully than it responds to facts. The transformation in your financial journey happens when you stop reporting what is and start commanding what must be. Instead of describing your struggle, you invoke your inheritance. Instead of explaining your lack, you declare your abundance. You're not lying about your situation. You're speaking from a higher reality that has the power to change your situation. Now, let me reveal the exact formula that makes this invocation irresistibly powerful. Because understanding the specific structure of wealth commanding language will give you the precision necessary to override any financial limitation. Write I. Speak from truth in the comments if you're ready to invoke eternal principles rather than temporary universal law, functions as a mirror circumstances. This exact formula that makes wealth-commanding language irresistibly powerful operates through understanding a principle that most people find shocking when they first discover it. Universal law functions as a mirror, not a filter. It reflects exactly what you send out through your words without editing for politeness, spiritual maturity, or good intentions. The universe doesn't soften your complaints, reinterpret your limitations, or improve your declarations to make them more palatable. If you speak limitation, you get limitation reflected back to you with mathematical precision. If you speak abundance, you get abundance manifested with the same exactness. The law is completely impartial. It doesn't care about your background, your circumstances, or your worthiness. It simply mirrors whatever vibrational signature you're consistently sending through your speech patterns. This revelation transforms your entire approach to financial transformation because you realize there's no mysterious force working against you, no cosmic conspiracy keeping you broke, and no special requirements you need to meet before abundance can flow. The only variable in the equation is the consistency and authority of what you're speaking. Change your input, and the mirror of reality changes its reflection automatically. But here's where most people completely miss the mark in their journey toward financial freedom. They believe that wealth comes from physical effort, from grinding harder, from working more hours, from finding better strategies. While action certainly has its place, the primary activator of abundance isn't sweat, it's speech. Action certainly has its place. Physical effort without a line declaration is like trying to drive a car without fuel. You might make some forward motion, but you'll never reach your destination efficiently. The transformation happens when you understand that you need to work smart, not just work hard. And working smart means speaking first, then taking inspired action. When you declare abundance with authority and conviction, the universe begins orchestrating circumstances, opportunities, and connections that make your action steps incredibly more effective and efficient. Most people exhaust themselves trying to force outcomes through sheer effort while speaking words of doubt and limitation. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it keeps draining out. But when you plug the hole by aligning your speech with abundance, every action you take becomes exponentially more powerful because it's supported by the creative force of the universe rather than working against it. The journey from sweat-based thinking to speech-based creating requires recognizing that your words aren't just commentary on your efforts. They're the primary force that determines whether your efforts will be fruitful or futile. Now, let me share with you the most profound example of how this principle works in real-world financial transformation, because seeing this process in action will give you absolute confidence in the power of aligned declaration. Comment speech activates. The power of aligned declaration, abundance. If you're ready to prioritize your declarations over your desperation and let your words do the heavy lifting. This profound example of aligned declaration in action reveals something that will fundamentally change how you see every single word that comes out of your mouth. Each statement you make isn't just casual conversation. It's actually a legally binding agreement with universal law. Your casual complaints about money are spiritual contracts with lack that you're signing and renewing every time you voice them. Your powerful declarations of abundance are contracts with prosperity that activate the moment you speak them with conviction. The hidden truth behind your financial struggles is that you've unknowingly signed thousands of contracts with scarcity throughout your lifetime. Every time you've said, "I can't afford that," you've signed a contract limiting your purchasing power. Every time you've declared, "Money is tight," you've renewed an agreement with financial restriction. These aren't just harmless expressions of frustration. They're binding spiritual contracts that the universe is legally obligated to fulfill. But here's where this understanding becomes your pathway to complete financial transformation. You have the power to cancel these old contracts and write new ones at any moment. Universal law doesn't care about your past agreements. It only honors your current declarations. The moment you start speaking abundance with authority, you're automatically canceling your contracts with lack and activating new agreements with prosperity. This revelation exposes something even deeper about why financial change has felt so difficult for so many people. Poverty isn't just a condition you're experiencing. Poverty isn't just a condition confession you've been making through your words day after day, year after year. Being broke isn't something that happened to you. It's a statement you've been consistently declaring through your speech, patterns without realizing the impact. Scarcity is actually a vocabulary you've been speaking fluently. And like any language, the more you practice it, the more native you become to that reality. When you constantly speak the language of limitation, "I don't have enough," "I can't get ahead," "money doesn't grow on trees," you become a citizen of scarcity consciousness. And that country only offers one type of experience. The transformation happens when you recognize that change. The confession to change the condition isn't just a nice saying. It's a precise instruction for financial breakthrough. Your current financial condition is the direct result of your consistent financial confessions. Change what you're confessing about. Money and your money situation must change to match your new declaration. This understanding puts you in complete control of your financial destiny because you realize that you're not at the mercy of economic conditions, job markets, or external circumstances. You're the author of your financial story through the confessions you make, the contracts you sign, and the vocabulary you choose to speak. Now, let me reveal the specific technique for canceling years of poverty contracts in minutes and establishing new abundance agreements that begin working immediately. Type "I rewrite my contracts" if you're ready to take full responsibility for the agreements you've been making with your words. This specific technique for canceling poverty contracts reveals something startling about the hidden architecture you've been unknowingly constructing in your life. Through repeated negative speech about money, you've actually built an elaborate mansion for lack to live in, complete with multiple rooms, reinforced foundations, and permanent fixtures that make scarcity feel completely at home in your experience. Every single time you've said, "I can't afford it," you've laid another brick in this mansion of limitation. Every complaint about bills has added another room for financial stress to occupy. Every worried statement about your future has reinforced the foundation that keeps scarcity solidly established in your reality. You've been such a skilled architect of lack that you've created a dwelling place so comfortable for poverty that it never wants to leave. But here's the transformation that changes everything. The same creative power that built this mansion of lack can demolish it and construct a palace of abundance instead. You're not stuck with the architecture you've created through past words. You can begin the demolition process immediately by recognizing what you've built and consciously choosing to speak new structures into existence. The demolition happens when you understand that what most people call being honest about their financial situation isn't actually truth at all. It's simply reporting temporary circumstances that have no power except what you give them through your continued declaration. When you say, "I'm just being realistic about my money problems," you're not speaking truth. You're reinforcing the very circumstances you claim you want to change. Real truth operates from a completely different level of reality. Truth means declaring what has already been established in the spiritual realm about your abundance, regardless of what appears to be happening in the physical realm right now. Truth recognizes that your prosperity exists in the invisible and speaks it into the visible through authoritative declaration. This distinction between reporting circumstances and declaring truth is where most people get trapped in cycles they can't seem to break. They think they're being responsible and mature by constantly describing their financial struggles, not realizing that every description is actually a renovation project that reinforces the mansion of lack they've built. The journey from circumstance reporting to truth declaring requires recognizing that your current situation is not the final word about your financial destiny. It's simply the result of words you've spoken in the past. New words create new architecture. And when you start speaking from the truth of your spiritual abundance, rather than the facts of your current bank balance, everything begins shifting. Now, let me share with you the exact blueprint for constructing a palace of abundance using the same creative power that built your mansion of lack, because understanding this design will give you the precise instructions for manifesting lasting financial transformation. Comment: I demolish lack and build abundance. If you're ready to tear down old financial architecture and construct something magnificent in its place, this exact blueprint for constructing a palace of abundance operates on a fundamental shift in positioning that most people never make because they don't understand the difference between speaking from the throne versus speaking from the threshold. Billionaire consciousness doesn't speak from a position of hoping to gain entry into wealth. It speaks from a position of established authority that already has access to unlimited resources. When you speak from the threshold, you're positioned like someone standing outside the gates of abundance, asking permission to enter, hoping someone will notice you and grant you access. But when you speak from the throne, you're positioned like someone who already sits in the seat of financial authority, making decisions about how resources will be allocated and directed. This transformation in positioning completely changes the energy behind your words. Instead of speaking from the starting line of struggle, hoping you might eventually reach success, you speak from the finish, a profound example line of success, directing how that success will be expressed and experienced. The universe responds to position more than it responds to petition. And when you speak from the throne of established authority, abundance flows naturally to support that position. Here's a profound example of how this works in real-world transformation. There was a man drowning in debt, overwhelmed by financial pressure, who discovered this principle when everything seemed hopeless. Instead of continuing to describe his debt and explain his struggle, he made a radical decision to change his speech patterns completely. He began declaring abundance as if he already possessed it, speaking from wealth consciousness rather than poverty consciousness. The shift happened almost immediately when his language changed from describing debt to declaring abundance. When his voice moved from threshold pleading to throne commanding, the universe responded with startling speed. Within a week, money began flowing through channels he never expected. A business contact he hadn't heard from in years called with a lucrative project. An investment he'd forgotten about matured. Opportunities appeared that perfectly matched his new vibrational signature. The transformation wasn't magic, it was law. When his voice changed, money responded because the universe recognized a new authority in his speech. He stopped sounding like someone who was broke and started sounding like someone who governed resources, and resources began seeking him out to be governed. This example reveals the hidden truth behind all financial breakthrough. Your voice creates your vibrational signature, and your vibrational signature determines what you attract into your experience. When you change how you sound about money, money changes how it flows toward you. Now, let me reveal the specific phrase that instantly shifts your positioning from threshold to throne. Because understanding this declaration will give you immediate access to the authority that commands abundant response. Write, I speak from my throne. If you're ready to stop asking for permission and start issuing commands from your position of spiritual authority, this specific phrase that instantly shifts your positioning operates on understanding a principle that explains why transformation can feel so challenging at first, yet become exponentially easier once you grasp the hidden mechanics behind it. Your current financial reality isn't a punishment from fate or a result of bad luck. It's actually architecture that's been carefully constructed by your former language patterns over months and years of consistent declaration. Every financial struggle you're experiencing today is an echo of words you spoke yesterday, last week, last month, and last year. Your present circumstances are the cumulative effect of thousands of small statements, casual complaints, and unconscious declarations that have been building your current reality brick by brick. The good news is that understanding this gives you complete power to rebuild because new words create new architecture immediately. This revelation transforms your entire relationship with change because you realize that you're not fighting against mysterious external forces. You're simply updating the blueprint that your reality follows. When you change your consistent language patterns, you're literally redesigning the structure of your experience from the inside out. But there's an even deeper transformation available when you understand how to completely reverse the power dynamic between you and money itself. Most people have been conditioned to chase money as their source, to bow before it as their master, to worry about it as their judge. They wake up each day wondering if money will approve of their plans, if it will show up when they need it, if it will stay long enough to make them feel secure. This relationship keeps you in a perpetual state of financial anxiety because you're treating money like a temperamental deity that might withdraw its favor at any moment. You're kneeling before something that was actually designed to kneel before you. The entire dynamic is backwards. And that's why financial stress feels so overwhelming and never-ending. The transformation happens when you reverse this relationship completely. Instead of chasing money as your source, you start commanding it as your tool. Instead of serving money's demands, you direct its flow. When you stop kneeling before money and start directing it with the same authority that a conductor directs an orchestra, the entire dynamic changes instantly. Money begins responding like the servant it was always meant to be, rather than the master you've been allowing it to become. You stop asking money for permission to feel abundant and start instructing it to support your vision. You stop waiting for money to validate your worth and start using your words to command its cooperation with your purpose. Now, let me share with you the exact declaration that establishes this master-servant relationship permanently, because when you speak this with conviction, money immediately recognizes your authority and begins flowing in alignment with your commands. Comment: money serves my vision. If you're ready to reclaim your position as the director of your financial reality, rather than its victim, this exact declaration that establishes your financial authority operates through recognizing a fundamental truth that most people never discover because they've been conditioned to look in all the wrong places for their security. As long as you believe that your job is your source, that the economy is your source, or that any external circumstances control your supply, you'll live in constant fear of losing what you perceive as your lifeline. This fear-based relationship with external sources keeps you trapped in a cycle of dependency that undermines your spiritual soul. Authority. When you believe your job controls your income, you speak like someone who's at the mercy of their employer. When you think the economy determines your prosperity, you speak like someone who's victim to market fluctuations. This dependency energy weakens every declaration you make about abundance because you're speaking from a position of powerlessness. The transformation happens when you recognize that divine source is your true supply, and everything else is simply a channel through which that infinite supply flows. Your job isn't your source, it's a pipeline. The economy isn't your source, it's a delivery system. When you align with this understanding, you stop fearing external changes because you know your supply comes from a source that never runs dry, never gets laid off, and never experiences recession. This recognition completely empowers your speech with unshakable authority because you're no longer speaking from dependency, but from connection to unlimited supply. Your words carry the confidence of someone who knows their resources are backed by divine guarantee rather than human circumstances. But here's where this understanding creates the most profound shift in your financial experience. When you truly grasp that your supply is spiritual rather than material, you can make a declaration that completely reverses the energy of your entire relationship with money. Instead of positioning yourself as someone who needs to hunt for dollars, you declare that every dollar you need is actively seeking you. This isn't wishful thinking. It's recognition of how spiritual law actually operates. When you align with divine source, you become a magnet for the resources that source wants to channel through you. Money stops being something you chase and becomes something that pursues you because you're now vibrating at the frequency of someone who's connected to unlimited supply. The shift from desperate pursuit to magnetic attraction changes everything about how opportunities appear, how resources flow, and how quickly abundance manifests in your experience. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to find money, you position yourself to receive the money that's looking for a worthy steward. Now let me reveal the most powerful daily practice that maintains this magnetic positioning and ensures that your declarations continue operating with maximum creative force. Right? Divine Source supplies all. If you're ready to shift from external dependency to spiritual authority in your relationship with abundance, this most powerful daily practice that maintains your magnetic positioning is actually simpler than you might expect, yet profoundly transformative when applied consistently. It involves beginning each day by declaring your connection to Divine Source. Before you check your bank balance, before you look at bills, before you engage with any external evidence of limitation, you start each morning by establishing your spiritual authority through aligned speech. And you maintain that authority throughout the day by catching yourself whenever you slip back into dependency language. When you make this practice as natural as breathing, you'll notice something remarkable happening in your financial reality. Opportunities will start appearing with increasing frequency. People will begin approaching you with propositions that align perfectly with your declarations. Resources will flow through channels you never anticipated, and abundance will start feeling like your natural state rather than something you're trying to achieve. The journey we've taken together today reveals something profound. Your voice has always been your most powerful financial tool, but perhaps no one ever taught you how to use it with precision and authority. Now you know that every word you speak is either building your wealth or dismantling it, and that understanding gives you complete control over your financial destiny. If you found value in this transformation, and you're ready to continue deepening your understanding of how spiritual principles create practical prosperity, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. The content here is designed specifically for people who understand that real wealth comes from alignment, not just effort, and who are ready to master the invisible laws that govern visible abundance. And if you stayed with me through this entire journey, drop a comment saying, "This message was meant for me." Read every comment, and I'm always amazed by the commitment of people who invest this deeply in their own transformation. Your willingness to go the distance tells me everything I need to know about the success that's already on its way to you. If this resonated with you, a simple like helps more people discover these principles when they need them most. There's something beautiful about being part of a community that understands the power of conscious speech and aligned action. There's a video right here that takes this foundation even deeper, exploring exactly how to identify and eliminate the subtle speech patterns that sabotage abundance before it can fully manifest. Click and continue with me over there. Thank you.